Good morning and welcome to our Tech Talk with iTradeNetwork. My name is Dennis Donahue and we are broadcasting from the Western Growers Center for Innovation and Technology in Salinas, California. We're going to begin with an informational presentation by iTradeNetwork, followed by Q&A from the online audience. So if you have any questions, please type them into the menu box to the right and we will pick those questions up towards the end of the presentation. iTradeNetwork works out of a designated workstation at the Western Growers Center for Innovation and Technology to maintain proximity to many of its grower customers, and so we get a chance to see them often. During this Tech Talk, iTradeNetwork will be delving into new technology that brings simplicity and agility to the perishable supply chain. The iTradeNetwork offers web-based software that automates the supply chain for both the retail and food service industries. Their network, which is currently comprised of some 6,000 plus retailers, operators, growers, shippers, manufacturers, and distributors, helps maximize efficiency and end-to-end visibility. I'm pleased to introduce to you Jason Varni, who is a Customer Success Manager and Senior Systems Engineer at iTradeNetwork. In this role for iTrade, he is able to focus on both designing world-class traceability systems and the customers who use them. Jason studied environmental science, and those studies included biology, botany, geology, soils and agriculture, and after that he began his career in the Silicon Valley, working for a number of technology startups and small companies. In 2009, he made the move to AgTech when he was recruited by the Quebec, Canada-based Hortau to develop industry-leading cloud-based soil monitoring systems for agriculture and to help grow their U.S. business starting in California. At Hortau, after the first few days working in the field on farms and meeting with farmers, Jason was hooked and believed he wanted to devote the rest of his career to finding solutions for farmers and improving the world's food systems. In 2011, he joined the Salinas, California startup TrueTrack, which began his focus on developing traceability systems that are both powerful and easy to use. TrueTrack was purchased by FoodLink in 2012, and which was subsequently purchased by the iTradeNetwork in 2014. And with that, Jason Varni, welcome, and you're on.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. iTradeNetwork is essentially a means by which buyers and sellers of produce and supply chain companies within the perishable food supply are able to more easily do business and provide transparency within their operations. First, I'm going to give you a quick overview of iTradeNetwork. Then I'm going to give you a little overview of the team that I'm in as a smaller group within iTrade that focuses on traceability. Our latest product, we're branding iTrace Fresh, which is a replatforming of a existing product that we've been developing for about a decade, since the days of TrueTrack in Salinas. And then I'm going to give you a little peek under the hood of some of the new stuff we've been doing this year and have slated for the years to come, followed by some Q&A. Really the goal of iTradeNetwork is to, really improve efficiencies within the perishable supply chain. We're owned by a parent company based out of Florida called Roper Technologies, which is a Fortune 500 company traded on the New York Stock Exchange. And iTradeNetwork was started 20 years ago, and so we're getting close to our 20th anniversary. Over that time, iTradeNetwork has developed a network of some 6,000 plus customers or members, if you will, that are using one or more solutions that we provide to help better their efficiencies at doing their job of feeding America and feeding the world. So we really work with grower shippers, manufacturers, distributors, retailers, operators, logistics providers. 14 of the top 20 grocery chains in America are, purchasing a majority of their perishables on our network. All of the top 10, so the grocers are companies like, Kroger, Safeway, Albertsons, Publix. All of the top 10 food service distributors, your Sysco's, your US Foods, your Aramarks, they're all leveraging our platform for purchasing perishables, as well as a lot of food and beverage manufacturers. These are companies like Coca-Cola, Tyson Meats and those types of companies. We have customers on pretty much every populated continent on the planet, and so we have a very dynamic group of customers that in and of itself provides synergy for our network to provide a organic means of bettering what we can deliver to the market. Recently, we've kind of consolidated our product portfolio. We've taken some products that were, either didn't have a lot of customers or that had some overlap with more core products, and so we've really consolidated down to kind of 6 core products. Our OMS and Karma suite are probably our leading products, and that is the mechanism by which OMS is an order management system, and Karma works with contracts and managing contracts. And so these are the core products that your typical grocery stores and your typical produce buyers leverage to connect to their suppliers and then facilitate the trading of perishables, produce, meats. iTradeNetwork is a quality platform that has kind of evolved from a product that we had started back as a startup through a couple of generations of an earlier generation of iTradeNetwork, and now it's a very robust, configurable means of digitizing inspections. It's being leveraged initially by some major retail grocery stores, but we're really pushing within my team to integrate that into our traceability solution and have that available for grower shippers. The goal there would be to have a standard set of inspections that can be used both on the supply side and the buy side, so that rather than having to, as a shipper, for example, inspect to a bunch of different specifications, you can basically integrate your buyer's specifications into your QA platform, and then through one inspection, really facilitate the data points that are needed by your buyers. The data and spend management, that's used to for large companies that deal with distributing to a network of units and sales points to really look at performance across that. MDS is a centralized product data management solution. We're one of a few handful of companies that are actually a certified GDSN network provider with the GS1 network. So it's where you're able to publish your information to GDSN through our MDS platform. And then there's that product is slated to really be evolving into kind of a central product database that can touch more of the functionality of the different iTrade suites. Branded procurement, that's a mechanism by which companies that deal with for example, like a cafeteria network or a network of like retirement communities and things like that, where they have food service as part of that. It's a means by which the individual units can place their orders for supplies through that network and then aggregate it to their distributors, who then fulfill those orders for material to the units where they're being used to feed people in those scenarios. And the team that I work primarily with is the iTrade Fresh team. We've been developing for about 10 years now, industry-leading case labeling at the PTI level, consumer item level, traceability, as well as first to last mile traceability, cut to cool, and things like that, where we really look to leverage the efforts of our customers doing PTI to really give them more value than just a label on a box. iTradeNetwork, looking back at last year, almost $100 billion in orders facilitated across our network on the order management side within our traceability solution. In our traceability solution, we had about almost $500 million either cases or consumer units of product traced, and then $13 billion across kind of the MAP trade spend, and that's being used for like restaurant chains and manufacturers to be more efficient in how they leverage their dollar. So iTrade Fresh, that's essentially the product I work the most on. This is a product that's evolved over, I'd say, since like the 2006 spinach crisis is kind of what led to the initial startup of TrueTrack, and over the years it's evolved to really be the industry-leading and most flexible mechanism by which companies can easily do traceability at the consumer level. For example, individual clamshell of berries, or even an individual piece of fruit or a melon can be traced within our system very easily, easy to set up, easy to operate. It allows, really it's really flexible in the sense of, one thing that really stands out about the produce industry is there's many different ways to get a commodity from the field, to market. It's either packed in the field, it's packed in a packing house, it's potentially value-added mixed product, and there's just so many different ways that workflows that, depending on the commodity or the company that's leveraged, that, we really, built an incredible amount of flexibility into our system, and this helps facilitate, the ease of setup and use for different customers. It really, it can be super simple, or you can add a lot of complexity without a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And the unique thing about this is also it provides the ability to, isolate and certain sets of product, and then we can trigger alerts on those codes, either on the consumer level or on the carton level, for recall. And then that, within our order management system as well, there's a way for suppliers to kind of message through to their buyers if a product's been recalled. So we've really, have some kind of systems that have been developed over the years that support that, and we're really looking to enhance those over the coming years. So scenarios that come up, say, like the Romaine situation in Yuma, in theory, we could really do a lot to help make that a process that's not as much of a heartache as it was this last year. As granular as you really want to get, we bake in a variety of, kind of typical data points within what we're capturing for traceability, but we also have user-definable fields. So our customers, we have kind of a sets of attributes that we collect for traceability, but it's open and flexible to where if a customer wants to track anything related to the product or the harvest event, they can easily extend the platform and add that. That flexibility has been built into it. So all this is kind of out of the box, no customization needed on the programming side. It's just a configuration, an easy configuration the customer admin can do, and they can track basically anything they want. Once codes are activated, either at the carton level or the consumer level, it's easy. The data can easily be looked up. I mean, it can be looked up from a kind of a basic lookup page that we include. One thing that's a big differentiator between our company is our embracing early on, going back probably 7-8 years now, of real API standards to open up our system to be interoperable, such that our customers can leverage our API to pull that trace data into either their website or into their their external applications. Easy to configure recall alerts. Our customers are really a testament to kind of why we do this, and it reinforces the reasons that we kind of get up and go to work every day. And so, this is an example of kind of one of our customers, and we hear this quite often that customers find a lot of value in leveraging our products, both to engage with their consumers in terms of building and protecting their brand, and also at a food safety and traceability level. So I would definitely say that our label solution is probably the most powerful and yet flexible and easy to use PTI labeling system that I've seen in the market. Essentially, we not only make it super easy to use, but we also extend the value beyond just a label on a box. It's important that, like I had mentioned before, with all the different workflows you see in fresh produce, you need to be able to do several things. You need to be able to work on and offline. You need to be able to work in the field. Things are being packed in field, they're being packed in a shed. You can't rely on network connectivity. It's seasonal, and so we've really worked over the years. When we initially started, we had leveraged the Microsoft mobile platform, because that was in a day before there was Android and before there was iOS. I'll speak a little bit more on a later slide, but we're replatforming and have released our next generation product, which is, you can use it on any browser. You can use it on a PC, a Mac, Linux. You can use it on an iPhone or an Android phone, and any of those mechanisms can get you access to the world-class PTI case labeling solution that we provide. Just very, very flexible in how it's applied, and that's critical. And some folks will pre-print and then they'll bring that product into the field. Some folks print directly in the field from the mobile solution. We've got some very sophisticated but simple to use and manage systems that run at high-speed value-added processing facilities where the product data can be managed centrally. You can configure it for multiple processing and packing lines, and then it's essentially a way to easily for the operator to select a SKU and then configure the printers to print the correct information on the bags, the clamshells, the boxes. Highly interoperable with multiple different types of equipment that are the industry standards for how packages are marked and coded within these value-added plants. These are places that do make salad and things of that nature. And then there's also mechanisms by which, if it's a mixed pack line, you can get machine vision to identify the product that is coming down the line and apply the correct label at that point. Mobile in the field, printing from any PC workstations. All you really need with our system is an internet-connected PC and a printer or a mobile device. This is an older Windows mobile device, but in this day and age, we've, like I said, replatformed. So all you would really need is an Android device or an iPhone, iOS device. The high-speed value-added processing facilities. They're fast-paced, almost a manufacturing environment. So we partner and we write software that runs at those stations. One thing, kind of then once you do have that product identified and able to trace it back, one of the things that we've really been extending as of late because of requests from our both retail customers as well as our grower shipper customers is the ability to easily share traceability information, taking it beyond just one step back, one step forward, and really creating a way to get breadcrumbs of supply chain custody throughout the movement of product from the field to the end consumer. And so, a leading U.S. retailer had recently been wanting to, kind of fill the gap, if you will, in terms of one thing that was really identified, and especially lately with the kind of after action investigation on the issue with romaine, is that grower shippers do the best that they can to identify their products, label them. PTI is fairly common. A lot of energy goes into that, but the folks that are up the supply chain receiving this product don't keep track of what they're receiving, and so as a probably not necessarily a result of that, but as foresight into that, a leading retailer, and we have conversations with several retailer customers that are wanting to really capture the data as to what lots are being shipped to them. And so the mechanism that's ideal for that, and it's been identified also by the Produce Traceability Initiative as a mechanism, is the Advanced Ship Notice. And so we've built several ways within our that are it's right in our wheelhouse, and we've got everything from an integrated solution where trace data is passed to iTrade and then on to your buying trading partners, down to as easy as a mobile app that just runs at the time of shipping, that marries the line items from a PO to the pallet identifier and then the traceability information that's on that pallet, so that it helps to easily trace that product forward up to the supply chain. So that as mentioned, we've really been busy over the last couple of years. We'd spent 8+ years developing a world-class product, and we realized that at that point we really wanted to be able to have a platform to take things to the next level. And so, with that in mind, we went ahead and literally rewrote and replatformed our entire solution to be using cutting-edge technologies, kind of moving away from what was available in 2008, 2009, into what's the latest and greatest for today. And so everything's kind of been migrated to the cloud. All of our data structure has been reorganized, highly available systems, as well as interoperable with the most current mobile devices, an Android or an iOS. And it actually really makes it super easy for our customers to not only kind of meet the current trends in traceability, but really to surpass those standards. And that's the springboard by which we really looking to take things kind of to the next level. I call it the ecosystem of trace, because in essence, we're not a company that really wants to necessarily do everything, and we want to just take what we do well and we want to keep doing it, better and better. And so we aren't going to necessarily be the system that captures all the data that maybe about your soil science and things like that, but we want to be an open network, such that if we can identify a product, where it came from, where it's been, and where it's going, we can link that trace data to other systems data that are collecting things like food safety documentation, irrigation trends for a field. So really, the next generation platform is not only going to be far better than what we've built in the past, but it's also going to be open enough to leverage for our customers, traceability as a mechanism to identify data that they're collecting within other systems. The first module that we put out on the new platform was that mobile solution for ASNs. And it really it takes that critical traceability data, and it can either pass that on to your buyers. It can actually integrate that in a way that you can receive it into your ERP, so that you have rich data about what's sitting on either your shelves or being shipped to your customers. And our iTrade Fresh platform, which is the quality inspection tool, we're really working hard to specify what sort of enhancements are needed. We have a great platform foundation, but we're going to really look to, we're doing discovery, and we have been, and we're continuing some discovery with our grower shipper customers to make sure that, we like we said, we plan to build that in later this year and early next year. And when we do, it's going to, meet really the requirements of grower shippers for how they do their inspections. Same way a retailer can leverage that platform to do vendor scoring and to grade the product coming in from different vendors. It'll be a mechanism by which grower shippers can provide feedback on quality to their growers. And so that's going to be hitting the marketplace relatively soon. And then we're really looking to, as a company, we had new leadership come in about 18 months ago, and it was very refreshing. And as part of that, there was a recognition that iTrade definitely has a lot of value that they've been offering for years to the retailer and the buyer community. But there's a strong initiative in iTrade to really enhance the value that's offered to the suppliers and the grower shipper customers. And as part of that, it was typically at iTrade where a trading relationship needed to be instigated by a buyer, reaching out to iTrade and saying, we want to connect to this supplier. We're looking to find out how we can better provide an open marketplace so that suppliers can grow their businesses as well, through leveraging our network. And the example of that would be that, really trying to find the best buyer for the right buyer for the right product, and in essence, hoping to enhance the overall amount of sales that our supplier customers can realize on the network. And then with that, I'd like to open it up and see if anyone has any questions. I know that was a very high level, but let's go ahead and see.
Thank you, Jason. That's a great and thorough overview. And we'll just remind the audience that if you do have any questions, please enter them, and we'll pick them up as we're visiting. A couple things, and first of all, let's talk a little bit about PTI labeling. You indicated the majority of grower shippers are taking advantage of PTI, or is that still kind of a work in progress in terms of industry adoption?
I would say compared to 5-6 years ago, it's a huge improvement over the amount of labeling that I see. And I see this both kind of within our customer base, but just, as I started getting into, working with companies doing traceability, I kind of never looked at a carton of produce either, at the store or at, the local flea market or where it may be that I see a case of produce. Early on, I used to see that pretty much most of them were not labeled. I noticed that, I definitely saw traction, most strength in in compliance starting in the leafy greens community. I feel that, they're higher risk, field pack, no kill step. So you definitely saw early on a lot of leafy green folks commit to going, 100% PTI, and I, see this across our customers, but also just even customers that aren't, or companies that aren't my customers that I see their packaging daily. I also saw a big push for that within, aside from berries, I must say, I think I saw a big push for that within companies that are producing south of the border as well. I feel that companies in Mexico really took a more proactive role in pushing to be compliant, and maybe that's because they get more scrutinized at the border, but they seem to be some of the early adopters. That being said, I would still say that we're definitely not at 100%. We're probably anywhere between like 50 and 65% in terms of if I just look at a carton and look for a label that's, a PTI label, that's what I'll say.
If there is a food safety issue, how does PTI help from your standpoint? I know you talked a little bit about that. Not all receivers are necessarily taking advantage of the opportunity that PTI offers. So from a food safety standpoint, obviously the ability to trace back is helpful, but it sounds like there's still a little bit of a hurdle.
Yeah.
So we've got adoption early, we're ahead of the curve on the production side, but the rest of the supply chain's got to jump on board.
Yeah, I would say that the grower shippers are definitely taking the lead on traceability. The PTI label in and of itself is designed to be interoperable with trading partners. I mean, the barcode, really the barcode is machine readable on a PTI label. It identifies who's the shipper, what's the product, and what's a reference to identify the source of that product. And so, so grower shippers have really stepped up and for the most part, identified their product before it hits the supply chain. And so PTI can really be a mechanism for, tracing back to the source and, identifying the source of a product. And I do see movement starting now within trading partners further up the supply chain that, it makes it easy for them to absorb that information, meaning recording what they're receiving. So if there is a recall scenario, the assumption should be that that anybody that's providing either for consumer sale or for dining to be eaten, they really should be identifying what traceability lots are being sold to their consumers, either eaten in a restaurant or walking out of a retail store, and then that way, if there is the event of a food safety outbreak, once it's identified where it came from in terms of where the last point of sale or consumption was, they should have the records of the PTI information that then can jump all the way back to the source of that product.
And there's a lot of talk also these days about blockchain. So what are your thoughts on that? And is this a component of, and blockchain goes a step further, or are really many of the elements of blockchain already involved in what you're doing?
Yeah, so really blockchain, frankly, blockchain right now is just a bunch of hype. There's some advantages of how that data structure is, but it's really not a silver bullet. It's one of those things that it's a word that gets definitely tossed around a lot, like it's the next greatest thing since sliced bread. Most traceability data would really not even require blockchain. Where I see it most effectively applied is really when you're talking about a contractual agreement. Some of our senior leadership at iTrade, they came from the financial tech industry, and so we've had discussions about blockchain, probably for over a year at this point, and just so that we can kind of analyze where we can best apply it. I think when you're talking about some exchange of custody, within products, there could be places to leverage blockchain there, but really, a blockchain is like any other database in the sense of the data going in and out of it. It's a garbage in, garbage out scenario. So really, there's nothing about blockchain that stops somebody from inputting some bad data into it. You kind of see the data trail, if you will, who's kind of extended that data set around products. At this point, we really are waiting to kind of determine, where we can best apply it, and it's probably going to be for some sort of an interchange of data between our system and others. But it goes back to what I said, even, 7-8 years ago, we were building a very open API. So a trading partner or a third-party entity that has authentication to our API can read our trace data just as easy, as opening a web page. And so, so really, blockchain doesn't help any of that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, definitely, there'll be a place for it, but it's, I definitely see that we're right now on the very hype stage of the cycle.
Okay, and it sounds like, and I think to those of us in the industry, I think as you've alluded to, you folks have been at this at eight plus years. PTI does create the necessary elements for wholesale traceability, presuming it's used throughout the entire system.
Exactly. And, so blockchain is really just a type of database.
Okay.
Think of it as that, and even in a blockchain world, systems are interfacing with that over an API.
Okay.
So really the systems or the people that are interacting with that data, the fact that it's on a blockchain database or on a standard database is really just transparent because they're still interfacing it through standard mechanisms.
Okay. Well, we do have another question, and apparently there may be another company out there that does similar things, and so they asked you to kind of weigh in on how you differentiate yourself versus Food Log IQ. What do you see the differences?
Yeah, so Food Logic, I know they do a lot of integrations. I don't know a ton about them, but I know that
Thank you for the clarification, by the way.
So my understanding is that and I've kind of seen a little bit of what they have in terms of information online. It's a solution by which that I think that there's it relies a lot on integrations between outside systems. Our system's kind of works to capture within our system traceability data on a very granular level. It's highly extendable. Our system's really developed for enterprise-based companies. It's the biggest, some of the biggest grower shippers in the world are leveraging our system for traceability. So there's a lot of other companies out there, and so one thing that is similar is that that goes back to this PTI compliance. So PTI kind of is a mechanism by which regardless of the system you're using to kind of create that traceability component, it can be shared with other systems.
Well, I think you said something important, and again, having been in the industry and observed things over the years, you folks have really had a level of specificity on the input side from grower shippers in your customer base, and I imagine that really is very, very important. And 6,000 plus retailers, that's a pretty impressive number.
Yeah, and I think from kind of going back to from even the traceability side, one differentiator between my team at iTradeNetwork and the products that we develop is that we originally came from a grower shipper. So a grower shipper good size one right in this building is the company that really initially had a visionary as their leader that decided to develop a system to easily do traceability at an enterprise level, and so so we've kind of evolved from that.
Okay, talk a little bit about what are so let's say somebody's listening today and says, okay, I want to embrace PTI and I want to get into the game. What are the challenges that they're going to have to be thinking about? Is it cost? Is it time? What have they got to be thinking about?
You hear there's a lot of common things that are said early on before kind of starting to try it. You hear, oh, it's going to be too hard. It's going to be too hard to maintain the data. How are we going to get these labels on the product? And really to that is, we really initially, when we work with customers that are in those scenarios, a lot of it gets demystified very quickly. Our system is super easy to manage. All you need is a browser. If you want to just go ahead and just key everything in, it's not too difficult to create your products and be, capturing trace data within a day. You can export, your information from your famous software or your other ERPs, and then import it into our system, or you can interface directly. We've got many large customers that, their ERP systems interface directly to ours with an API. So when they enter new shipper lots, they enter new products and growers in their system, it automatically pushes over to their traceability system. And so data management is one thing that you hear as a potential challenge, that I would say is, when just try our system out and you realize right away it's not a challenge. And then implementation, meaning, how are we going to actually physically do it? And so usually when I'll go in and, work in the pre-sales or in the implementation process of the customer, we look for existing touch points and we look for existing systems. Like, we really don't want to come in and reinvent the wheel. So, typically there's already a touch point or two within each different workflow for your commodities that is a place where you could do PTI labeling. And so it's our challenge to basically, and what we've done is made solutions that, all you need is either a mobile device or a PC, or if it's a high-speed processing line, just install our HSL application. And, then you're easily able to do that labeling. And then it kind of comes down to also one thing that I tell people all the time is that, grower shippers have been, had a trace system for decades. Most grower shippers that I know have had some way to kind of codify the ranches and where things are coming from, like I said, for decades. And so we really work with our customers rather than trying to say hey, let's reinvent your trace coding system. It's what are you doing today? And how are you producing today? And then we try and integrate in with that rather than trying to tell them to change.
Well, and speaking of days and on a day-to-day basis, who's using your system? I mean, where's that bell curve fall out in terms of, who are the 60 or 70%? What are the job types that are
Gotcha.
using the system?
So there's over 1,000 field crews out there that are packing produce.
Yeah.
There's most big grower shippers in the Salinas area, and then you've got customers all over the U.S. and Mexico.
But is it ag ops? Is it sales desk?
Typically, the guys that are labeled
using it.
Your production teams.
Okay.
So we make tools that are simple to use at the field data capture and traceability labeling side, and then most folks that are doing the data admin are, it's a mix. I'd say there's some food safety folks, there's some sales folks, and some IT folks that are kind of doing the data management. And that's that's maybe 10% of the overall use of the system. 90% would be actual production teams, in the field harvesting or in a pack shed or in a processing plant. Those are the ones that we really work hard to make sure that we provide them with the most easy to use tools to not interfere with their jobs. Like I said before.
So ease of use really is important, and the ability to get comfortable with it pretty quickly. It certainly matters for your success.
Yeah, and going back to your what are the challenges? Most of the initial challenge is how are we going to get this to work? What do we have to change to make this work? And we kind of come and say, don't necessarily change anything. Just find out where we can add this little piece of work, small, easy to do, and then you have traceability. So
if, for instance, because we want to close with asking you if someone's interested in a demo, who do we contact? But along with that, just along the lines of adoption, let's say they come in, they like it, they're ready to go, or give or take 90 days, 120 days, 60 days down the road. Is it easily just part of the new routine, or what's we hear all the time that once the customer kind of gets kicked off and started, we didn't think it was going to be that easy. Okay.
I mean, that's pretty much the concept.
It's probably got to be music to your ears.
And what I'll do is I'll have Emily go ahead and what we'll do is we'll email everybody that's on the webinar here information to get in touch with my sales director, Dan Rain. He's been in the industry for years. He's worked for Dole, Fresh Express. He knows growers, shippers. And he's the guy you can contact about setting up a deeper conversation and a demo, and kind of so we can learn about your company and you guys learn more about us.
Terrific. Well, thanks for your time this morning. It was good to visit with you, and your topic and what you're doing it couldn't be more relevant at the moment. So good
Thanks, Dennis.
opportunity to visit with you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, everybody, for joining.